Hi, and welcome to Cooking with Kids. I'm Sarah, the Children Youth Services Librarian here at the Spruce Grove Public Library. In this program, you're going to meet my family, my husband Dave, and my kids, Sutherland, Montgomery, Oswald, and Theodora. Cooking with kids can sometimes be a crazy experience, but the memories they make and the hands-on learning that they take away from being involved in food prep and build a foundation for healthy eating habits. So more tips and suggestions for this can be found at Canada's Food Guide online. So enjoy the show.
Sadie, what are we making today?
Apple pancakes.
With what kind of apples?
Granny Smith apples.
Super. So today we're making apple pancakes. It is a German recipe. Basically you end up frying some apples in the bottom of a skillet, dumping some batter on top, and baking it in the oven to get it all fluffy. And it's delicious.
Yeah.
So, first thing we're going to do is prepare the apples for in the skillet. So for chopping the apples, we want them to lay fairly flat and fairly even. So you can chop like this, so you're just going around the core. And then you want them about a 1/4 inch thick. Like that. How's that? You gonna do the rest?
Yeah.
All right. One quick trick for if you're wanting kids to do cutting of the apples, make it a little more stable, is the first cut goes in, and then instead of cutting it where it's wobbly like this, you lay it down nice and flat. And then you don't have any wobbles. And the kids can eat around the core after. And while he's cutting those, we'll start getting the recipe ready here. So, a couple basic things. Most of the recipes we'll be doing for this series, I'll probably end up just doing dairy-free just because it's easy. It's something that a lot of people run into nowadays. We don't necessarily do it all the time, but basically wherever there's water, you could also do milk. Makes it a little bit richer and that sort of thing. So, we're going to need some flour, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of vanilla, and a couple of eggs, and a little water. Our other main ingredients here today. So the batch is a bit small for what we like to use, so I'm going to double it up today because we use a rather large skillet. And then, a triple batch would do something like a large cake pan, that sort of thing. On the writing underneath the video, we'll put what a single batch is, and then kind of what size pans fit for each batch size. So we're going to put in 1.5 cups of flour. Does that look about 1/2 cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So that's the first thing we do. Next thing we're going to need is our water. So 1.5 cups of water. With most things baking, you want to use cold water. And this is a fairly runny recipe, so we use kind of our whisking egg beater end. So it just depends on what style of egg beater you have. We'll put in some vanilla. About 1 teaspoon. And we're going to put in 4 eggs. Depends how confident you are in your egg cracking and breaking egg expertise, if you'll go straight into the batter or not. Sadie, do you want to crack some eggs for me?
Not yet.
Here's 2 of them.
I'll do
Sadie, you can do the next 2 here.
I'll do one.
Here you go. So when doing eggs, you want to get a nice crisp break on the side there. And then you just pull them apart. Some recipes, they ask you to separate the yolks and the whites. This is not one of them, but this is how you separate.
This isn't it.
And then you'd have the yolk and the white. But we're using the whole thing today. Go ahead, Sadie. A little bit more. And then, no, just right there where the crack is. Push your thumbs in slightly. Yeah, pull it up. That will happen. That's why you might want to do it in a separate container, especially when working with kids. Do it the first few times. But that one came out actually pretty clean. The yolk broke a little, but no eggshell went in. Alright, so 4 eggs in this one. And then we're going to turn it on nice and slow to start. So we're going to beat it a little bit. We want it nice and smooth. If it's too runny, it'll fluff up nice in the oven, but then when you pull it out, it'll end up collapsing on you a bit, which isn't the end of the world. It still makes a delicious apple pancake. We'll just use the spatula to scrape all the flour and stuff off the bottom. So we have our flours, our flour, our water, vanilla, and eggs in here, and that's basically the whole recipe. The next couple of things is a little bit of Granny Smith apples. We really like them because they're a little bit more tart, and so you get a little more flavor. But you can use any apples. You know, Spartans or Macintosh are really good as well, kind of in that category. Or sweeter ones like Royal Gala are fine. So, and then yeah, so things like our other ingredients are butter or margarine. We're gonna put that in the bottom of the skillet, melt it. We're gonna put the apples in the bottom of the skillet to cook them for just a minute. And yeah, then we'll put on the batter, sprinkle a little bit of sugar and cinnamon on top, just to get a nice little bit of color and add to the flavor. All right, a couple things you'll wanna do now is, first off, turn on your oven. You wanna preheat it to 350 degrees. Next thing we're going to do is put some butter or margarine into the skillet here. You can do it in a cake pan or something else if you want. I find it comes out a lot better in here. If you're doing it in a cake pan, instead of frying it on the stovetop, you might want to throw it in the oven to melt the butter and soften up the apples just a little bit. But we're going to put a reasonable amount of butter, so about 3 tablespoons or so, maybe a little bit more than that. We're going to melt it. You don't want it too hot because we're not trying to burn anything. We're just trying to get the butter to absorb into the apples and soften them up a little. Alright, so now that our butter is melted, we're going to put our apples in. You can do whatever you want with them. I just try to do a fairly even pattern. And we did cut up 4 apples. It just depends on how big your apples are, things like that. My guess is we won't quite use all of them, probably about 3 apples worth. Alright, so now the apples have cooked for a couple of minutes here, and we're going to add our batter. Alright, and just before it goes in the oven, we're going to sprinkle a little brown sugar on top and a little cinnamon. So first we'll do the brown sugar. Here's a little one for you. If you've ever run into your brown sugar being really hard and stuff like that from just sitting, really easy thing you can do is put a piece of bread in the top of it, and it keeps it really nice and soft. So we're going to sprinkle a little on top. You can use regular white sugar as well. Just depends what flavors you want. Alright, and then we'll just add a little bit of cinnamon. And then we'll put it in the oven. And remember, the oven is set to 350 degrees. We want to put it in there for about 18 minutes so it becomes fairly solid. And then what we're going to do is we're going to switch it to broil for just a couple of minutes and it'll get really nice and fluffy. Alright, while the apple pancakes cook, we're going to do another little breakfast favorite here, which is some glazed sausages. It's not good all the time, but it's good for a special occasion. So first thing we do is toss a little bit of olive oil in, just so the sausages don't cook. Normally they get enough juice coming out of them, it's not an issue. Nothing frustrates me more than having stuck things in a pan. So take whichever your favorite is. You can have beef, you can have pork, whatever.
What's our kind?
These are a pork sausage, Teddy.
Oh.
So you don't want to cook them too fast or else they end up kind of burnt. Breakfast sausages do cook fairly fast, being that they are as small as they are. So once your sausages are all brown, kind of on all sides, you kind of rotate them as you go here. And you do want to cut one. I sliced one earlier to make sure the inside's cut, or cooked all the way. And you really don't need the burner very hot for this, so turn it right down. And you can use anything for a glaze. You can use a mixture of water and corn syrup. You can use, what I like to use is maple syrup. So I just put a little bit on. And one other thing I like to add a little bit of is dry mustard. Yellow mustard works as well too. So now what's going to happen is as it warms up, the maple syrup gets a little bit thicker and thicker and thicker. So there's that. And you just do a little pinch of your dry mustard. And keep them moving. Very important, or else the sugar from the syrup will burn. And it just thickens up rather quickly. And we're just about done here. And then turn it off, remove it from the heat, and just let them sit for a minute. Here we're going to take a look and see how our apple pancake's doing. It's getting quite nice. Cooked most of the way through there. So now what we're going to do is just turn the broil on for a couple of minutes. I usually do it around 500 degrees, but it's literally just going to take 2 or 3 minutes here, and you'll all of a sudden rise and get nice and fluffy, and yeah. Then you pull it out, let it cool for a few minutes, and ready to serve. And there we go. After a couple of minutes on broil, it puffs up, and it'll go back down a little bit here as it cools. But yeah, then all you do is use a spatula to chop it up into pieces.
Daddy, I see it going down.
And you have a nice big piece of fluffy apple pancake.
Yum.
Here, we'll cut out another piece so it looks nice and pretty.
A pretty piece.
Yep. So there you have it, some nice apple pancake.
And
It's
some
super,
salsa.
super tasty. It's very basic. It's flour, water, egg, a little bit of vanilla, and essentially some apple here. So I like to serve it up like that.
And the saucy sauce.
Have a few of the glazed sausages. And you got a pretty killer kind of lunch, breakfast, whatever you want to serve it as. Yeah, good for the whole family.
Thank you for watching Cooking with Kids, brought to you by the Spruce Grove Public Library. We hope that you enjoyed this recipe and are inspired to try it yourself at home. To celebrate this new virtual program, we will be hosting a Kids Kitchen Challenge. We're asking the young chefs of Spruce Grove to send us a photo of them preparing a family favourite recipe or any recipe of your choice. All participants will be entered into the grand prize draw. More details can be found on our library website at sgpl.ca/programs/kitchen-challenge. New videos will drop here on Facebook every 2 weeks throughout the fall, so join us again soon for more tasty makes. Stay safe and have fun in the kitchen.